Cast your mind back to the last time you were genuinely excited to receive something in the post. Not a bill, not a parcel you'd forgotten you'd ordered, something you'd been actively looking forward to. Something that when it finally arrived, you held it for a moment before you even opened it. For me, that feeling arrived once a month throughout my teenage years in the 1980s in the form of Crash Computing magazine. And understanding why I loved it so much is actually the secret to writing a newsletter your readers will never want to delete. Crash was dedicated to the Sinclair ZX Spectrum, my beloved home computer, and it was without question the highlight of my month, every single month. Now, there were other computer magazines on the shelves, plenty of them. Some were technically excellent, some of them were packed with information, but Crash was different. And I want to tell you exactly why. Because the reason it was different is the most important thing I can teach you about writing a newsletter your readers will actually love. When that magazine dropped through the letterbox, I didn't flip to the back, I didn't skim the contents page, I didn't save it for later. I already knew, before I'd read a single word, that every page was going to be worth my time. So I'd spend just a few seconds looking at the cover, that glorious artwork by the amazing Ollie Frey. And then I'd start from the very first word and I'd read the whole thing in order all the way to the end. Now, you might be thinking, that's a lovely bit of nostalgia, but what's a 1980s computer magazine got to do with my newsletter about narrowboat restoration, rare houseplants, vintage fountain pens, whatever the thing is? Stay with me, because in just a moment, this is going to make complete sense. Here's what Crash gave me that the other magazines didn't. It gave me a fun editorial that made me feel part of a community. It gave me honest reviews so I wouldn't waste my pocket money on a dud game. It gave me hints and tips to get me further into the games I was already playing, and it had dedicated sections for the things I cared about the most. Plus, it had a reader forum where real letters from real readers like me were answered by the staff. But more than any of that, and this is the crucial bit, it had a voice. Not a corporate voice, not an authoritative voice, trying never to be wrong sort of voice. A voice that felt like it had been written by people who loved the exact same thing I loved and couldn't wait to talk about it. It felt less like a professional publication, more like a brilliant friend who happened to know everything about the thing that I was obsessed with. And that is what your newsletter subscribers are looking for. Not information, not expertise, not a perfectly structured article with an introduction, 3 main points and a conclusion. They are looking for that feeling that someone out there completely gets it, gets them, gets why this specific, strange, wonderful thing matters so much. Crash magazine never drifted because they knew exactly who I was. But I've worked with a lot of newsletter writers over the years and I've seen what happens when that feeling starts to slip. I once worked with a writer who started out brilliantly. Warm, specific, deeply knowledgeable about their niche. Readers loved it, and then gradually something shifted. The newsletter started to change. Political opinions crept in. Unrelated personal tangents appeared. Content borrowed from other sources began filling the gaps. The specific joy that had drawn readers in got buried under layer after layer of stuff that had nothing to do with why they subscribed in the first place. The readers didn't seem to complain, they just left. And the writer, rather than returning to working what had worked, doubled down on the drift until the newsletter disappeared altogether. I kind of watched it happen in slow motion and I couldn't stop it because the writer had stopped asking the only question that matters. What does my reader actually need from me today? Not what do I have to say, not what have I been thinking about this week, not what interesting thing did I find on the internet. What does my reader need? Here's the one thing I want you to take away from today. Before you write a single word of your next issue, ask yourself this. If one of my subscribers forwarded this email to a friend, what would I want them to say about it? Not, this is informative, Not this person knows their stuff. Something more like, this is the one writer I've found who completely gets what it's like to love this thing, and reading them makes me feel less alone. That is the standard. That's what Crash Magazine was for me. Every single month for years. And that is absolutely within your reach. Whatever your hobby, whatever your niche, whatever your subscriber count right now. You don't need a big audience to write something that makes one person feel completely understood. You just need to remember why you're writing, who for, and why they followed you in the first place. And if you're ready to start writing the newsletter your readers will look forward to, the way I look forward to Crash, I've left a link to the new writer bundle down in the description below. It's packed with prompts designed to help you dig into the specific personal feeling-filled stories that build that kind of loyalty from the very first issue. Go and grab it, and let's give your readers something worth looking forward to. And if today's video has made you think differently about who you're really writing for, this video is exactly where to go next. Thanks for watching, and as always, the very best of luck with your writing. Cheers.